Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. My name is Annalise and this is my channel where we get planty with it. So I'm very excited because this video is the first official video related to my moving series. If you guys haven't already seen it, about a week ago I announced that I'm gonna actually be moving to Philly. I live in New York City right now. So we're moving out of the city finally. Very excited for it, but kind of overwhelmed because it's about 5 weeks away now. It's a very, very expensive process to move, especially because I do need to move my plants separately because the movers won't move them and I don't want them to move them. And so I'm trying to downsize my collection as much as humanly possible. I do have to be realistic. It's not going to be a ton because I'm attached to a lot of my plants and I don't think I can get rid of them, but I'm going to try to downsize as much as I can. And the first step of that is picking out plants, deciding what to sell, and then going through the selling process. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. So if you wanna see the process of me selling my plants from start to finish and want some tips on how to sell your own, then definitely keep on watching. So in full disclosure, I've already sold about 10 to 15 plants to different people. Some I am holding until it gets a little bit warmer. Some I've already given to people, some I have shipped out. But I wanted to sell my plants in waves because since this is not a full-time job for me and since I don't have a plant selling business, I don't have a ton of time to be packaging plants up and shipping them out and going to meet up with people. And so I've been trying to post like 5 to 10 per week, just so it's a little bit more manageable for me in terms of getting them out to people. So let's get started. What is the first step to selling a plant? So obviously you need to go through your collection and pick out what plant do you want to sell or what plants do you want to sell. There's a few different ways that you can sell plants or types of plants that you can sell, I guess you could say. The first is just selling a whole plant, so it's in a pot or it's in sphagnum. Selling your entire plant is one way. I typically don't do that because a lot of times when I'm selling plants, I want to keep some part of the plant for myself so I can grow it back, but that's definitely a possibility. Usually I like to sell cuttings, and there are 3 different types of cuttings to think about when you're selling. The first is the top cut, which let me get an example. So this is my Florida Beauty who's going to be the example for today. So the first type of cutting is a top cut. So if I cut off this top leaf right here, this top leaf would come with this growth point right there, which makes it the top cut. It's usually pretty quick to put out new growth since it already has an established growth point and just needs to root up. So typically that's one of the more desirable types of cutting that people want. Now a mid cut is if I cut off one of these middle leaves, so it doesn't have roots, it doesn't have a growth point, it just has a node. Roots and a growth point will come from that, but it will take a little bit more time to get established. And then there's the bottom cut, or the butt cut as I like to call it, where if you cut off, let's say the top leaves of the plant and you leave the bottom leaf or two, you're selling that bottom part that has a couple leaves and the root system. I also like the butt cut personally because since it already has an established root system, I've noticed it grows back a lot more quickly than, let's say, a mid cut. So those are typically the ways I sell plants, either full plants or cuttings. I definitely prefer the cutting method for the reason I explained. And so the first thing you want to do is pick out what you're going to sell. So I'll show you some of the things I want to sell today. First up is this Syngonium albo cutting. If you guys know, a while back in my struggling plants video, I talked about how I kind of killed my Syngonium albo and I grew it back from a lot of different pieces. Now I have quite a lot of pieces in a container in my plant room and they're doing really well. And I have this extra one that I said, why not just sell, because I don't need more of them. So this is one of the leaves that got damaged from the pest treatment I did. The soap clearly caused damage to the leaf down there. It's browning, but I was waiting for this. It put out a beautiful new leaf here. Yeah, it put out that beautifully variegated leaf right there, and it actually is decently rooted at this point. So this is a plant that I want to post today. Number 2 is in this cup. So there are actually 2 plants in this cup. There is a regular green burl marks right here, and then there is a variegated one up front. I think I'm gonna post the variegated one for sale today. I might sell the regular green one, but usually the regular green burl marks is pretty common of a plant, so this is something I would probably just give to somebody who was interested or add into an order if someone was interested in it, not really sell it. But I think I'm gonna post the variegated one for sale. Then I have this cute little Monstera subpinnata. They have such unique leaves. It just put out this new leaf here. This one does have a little bit of light damage on it, but it's totally fine. It's healthy and it's rooted. And then I have this Monstera deliciosa. This is a reverted albo, so you can tell in the stem, there's a big chunk of white in the stem there, if you can see it, like right there. The stem is basically half white. This root is like messing up the focus, but I promise you it is. This is from my albo, I cut it, and it's completely reverted. I don't think it's gonna put out any new white growth. I guess someone could try with it if they wanted to, There's only one node down here and it's already been cut down to the node, so I really don't think it could put out any more white. But if it's an experiment that someone's interested in, they can definitely go for it. So I'm gonna be selling this. And then the last one I wanna sell today is this Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. I'm gonna sell this kind of as a rehab because this plant has just never done well for me. You can see there's like, it looks like maybe edema on the back of the leaves. I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's some discoloration. The leaves have always come out kind of wonky. I do have like 2 or 3 cuttings from this plant, so I'm gonna try to restart it, but I think I can let go of this bottom piece. It's actually 2 plants in here, but I'm going to sell this one as well. Okay, so for step 2, once we decide what plants that we want to sell, we actually have to make a selling post. I typically sell on Instagram for the most part. However, I have sold on Facebook in a couple of local plant groups. I think that selling on Facebook has been really helpful for selling locally. So bigger plants that I don't feel comfortable shipping, I can post in the local New York City Facebook group, and usually somebody will be interested and will arrange either a meetup somewhere in the city or they'll just come by my house and pick it up. But in this case, since I'm selling a lot of smaller plants, I've been mostly posting just on Instagram because I'm comfortable shipping them. So that's what I'm gonna be showing you guys today. So the first thing I like to do is I actually like to take a video of the plant instead of a picture. I feel like with a video, you can provide a more complete look at what the plant looks like. I think it's really important to provide a complete look, especially with plants that might have some damage. So for instance, as I told you guys, this Monstera subpinnata does have a little bit of light damage here. It's really not significant damage, but it got a little bit too much light, so you can see the leaf got a little bit yellow. That may not come across clearly in just a single picture. You know, this leaf could be blocking it, maybe you couldn't see it, but in a video I can really show each individual leaf so people can see really what's going on with the plant. And usually if it's a plant that's living in water, like the Syngonium albo that I showed you, then I can also show the roots all in one post instead of posting, you know, 5 different pictures to my Instagram story of the same plant. So I'll typically do a video. I do like to take it in natural light when I can. Unfortunately, today is super gloomy out, so I'm gonna use some supplemental light, but when it's sunny out, I will take a video using the natural sunlight just so you can get a real true view of what the plant looks like. And then on the post, I will include information about the plant. I'll definitely make a note if there's any sort of cosmetic damage or any sort of issues, or if it's a rehab plant, and then I will include the price. In order to determine the price of the plant, I usually will look on Etsy or other plant stores that you're familiar with. I typically look at Etsy, and I'll look at about 20 listings or so, just scroll through maybe the first page of listings to see what is the average price of this plant in this size. So if I'm looking at a baby Monstera subpinnata in like a 4-inch pot, I would look at what the average price that is. Let's say the average price is $35. I'm making that number up because I don't actually remember what it was, but let's just say it was $35. Usually I like to bring my price down from that just because if I'm selling on Instagram, I'm usually selling to people who follow me or people I know or people who subscribe to me, and I want to share my plants with the world. I don't want them to be super expensive or anything like that. So I would probably price this at about $25. And then I post it. Pretty much after that, I wait to see if I receive any messages about it. The first person who messages me has first dibs. That's kind of the order that I go in. And then I let them know if they want me to ship, how much shipping would cost. It's usually like $10 to $15. Or if they want to pick up, we arrange that. So once everything is arranged, either the person will come meet me somewhere or come to my house and pick up the plant, which is very simple. That's probably the easiest way to go. Otherwise, I will ship out the plant. I've showed you guys in a few different videos my shipping process of how I wrap my plants, etc. So I won't go into that specifically today. If you do want a video on how I package plants for shipping, let me know. I am by no means an expert though, so maybe I don't want to make that video because I don't think I'm like very good at it. I kind of just wrap them in bubble wrap and use polyfill and do the best I can. Thankfully, pretty much every plant I've ever shipped has made it safely, knock on wood. Okay, so that's pretty much the process. A couple of things I like to think about when I'm thinking about selling plants is I really prefer to sell plants that are already rooted, especially if I'm shipping. I don't like selling unrooted plants just because they can decline so much more quickly. If your plant gets stuck in the mail, which it definitely can, in my experience, it definitely has a better chance of making it if it already has roots as opposed to an unrooted cutting. So usually I'll wait for that. When I cut, for instance, my Mexicanum, I had posted on my Instagram that I was cutting it. I wasn't even technically selling it. I just posted I was cutting it, and some people were interested in cuttings, and so I let them know, let me wait about 3 or 4 weeks until we have some root growth, and then I can send it out to you, and they were both fine with that. So that's something I'm going to be doing. So that's one thing to think about. If you want to think about selling plants down the line, maybe start cutting now so they can be rooted by the time that you sell them. It's also better because if you're selling to somebody who's maybe not comfortable with rooting it themselves, then you don't have to worry about, you know, maybe them coming back to you and saying the plant died after I got it. because maybe they didn't know how to root the plant, which is totally fine. So to avoid that, just making sure that you're giving people rooted plants that are gonna have a better chance of survival, in my experience, is the best way to go. Another strategy to do when you're thinking about cutting your plants is air layering. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that technique, but it's basically putting a medium around aerial roots on a plant before you cut it so that the roots can develop, and so when you cut it, you kind of have roots already grown. So for example, very sadly, I'm gonna be cutting my Florida Beauty to sell very soon. Once this top leaf here unfurls and hardens off, I'm gonna be cutting this guy and selling 2 leaves of it. And so what I'm doing here, if you can see, this leaf's blocking it. There's sphagnum right there. That's wrapped around 2 different nodes that I'm keeping moist in the hopes that they start to grow roots before I cut it. So that when I cut it, it's very easy to root because the root growth has already started. So yeah, I'm gonna be cutting this plant to sell. My philodendron mayoi is another one I'm gonna be cutting to sell soon. I'll definitely take you guys along on that process. I'm not gonna do it today, but I will be doing that soon. Who else? I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of going day by day with selling. I just walk around and see what seems ready to be sold and go from there. So if you are looking for something in particular that you know I have and think I might be selling, feel free to message me on Instagram at Get Planty with it, and I'll see if maybe I have something available. If not, I'm very sorry. There are definitely some plants that I will not be cutting specifically. I thought about it, but I'm not gonna do it. My Thai Constellation Monstera, I can't do it yet. I just am not emotionally ready. I wish. I'm gonna be selling probably 2 plow manii cuttings. I think one's already accounted for, but a plow manii cutting. Maybe I'll cut my Jose Bueno, that's up in the air. I think I'll be selling a Frydek. Anyway, I'm not gonna go through the whole list because I'm kind of just deciding as I go, but if there is anything specific that you're looking for that you know I have, let me know and I'll let you know if it'd be possible for me to cut it and sell it. Anyway, that is pretty much the whole process of how I sell my plants. Sorry if this was a super basic video. Maybe everybody already knows this information, but I know when I started collecting plants, I felt very nervous about selling them. I was convinced I didn't know how to ship plants and that I couldn't ship plants and I couldn't sell plants. And so I thought, you know, maybe someone would benefit from a few tips on selling your plants. If you have any questions about the selling plants process or how it goes, definitely comment down below and I will answer as best as I can. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this first moving series video. There's going to be definitely more about the selling process, I think, and about just downsizing in general. And then at some point, I'm going to have to get into packing. I have to start ordering packing supplies. Comment down below, what is your favorite thing to pack your plants in when you move? Do you do just like typical cardboard boxes, or is it worth investing in big like plastic totes so I can close the bins? That might be better because then I can reuse them down the line. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.